All right, we're calling this meeting to order. We're going to have our invocation from Chaplain Mike Mayfield from the Clayton County Police Department be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would, stand with me.
Our Father, as we gather once again, we invoke your presence. We pray that you might take charge and have your will and way. Give the commissioners wisdom and help us to be obedient and faithful to what your will is. I pray, Father, our words would be seasoned with kindness, and pray everything said and done would bring glory and honor to you and to your Son. We ask in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening and welcome to the July 18, 2017 regular business meeting. The first order of business is the adoption of the agenda. Does any member want to offer any amendments?
Ms. Davis, I'd like to add 2 items to the agenda. Both are, I think, personnel. One is the consideration for the creation of a new major position in the Clayton County Police Department. And the second would be to consider the transfer of E911 back to Police Department.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, to make those additions, it would have to constitute an emergency item.
We can talk about it if you want to make a motion.
I'm sorry?
We need a motion and a second to discuss.
Well, if that's the case, then I would need to know what the emergency was in order to even take a motion on it.
Sure. The urgency,
We don't? Okay, all right. Okay, so there's a
Second.
motion, is there a second?
Second.
All right, now getting back to the discussion, what's the emergency?
the urgency is that the Board of Commissioners posted the director position for E911 at our last meeting. And if we're going to consider this transfer in a timely manner, we want to do so before we start collecting applications and conducting interviews.
Well, we posted the position with it being in mind that the director was going to run that department, not that we were going to consolidate. So at that time, there was no consideration for remerging the 911 center.
I agree.
If the police department, and not to mention, I have done my homework where I went to the E911 personnel and have asked them what was their thoughts on the merger. And once again, they were against any idea. They wanted to remain as a standalone because they felt like they got better, taken care of better as a standalone agency. Now, when it comes to employees, a happy employee is a productive employee, and that's why anytime I make my decisions, it's going to be partially based on what their input is on a certain item, just like I feel like the citizens are due that same amount of respect.
And Mr.
Duly
Chairman,
noted.
I would like to say, considering the citizens and all, we can save them $120,000 or $150,000 by consolidating that with putting it back into police.
Per year.
Well, if I'm correct, isn't there 2 positions that are open? The director and the assistant director's position?
Chairman, I believe there's the 911 director's position and the operations manager's position are the 2 positions that presently are open.
So if we're looking to save money, why don't we alleviate the director or the manager of operations if you're seeking to save money?
I think that that's great. Do you want me to amend my motion or add another one to add that item to the agenda after we vote on this one?
No, I would like to keep, yeah, you can amend it if you're gonna keep the director's position, and, which would need a motion to delete the director or the manager of operations position, if you're seeking to save money.
Okay. Well, I'll just let my motion stand for the time being.
I'm sorry, say again.
I said I'll just let my motion stand for the time being, and then I'll add a second, and I'll make a new motion as soon as we vote on this one.
Okay, any other further discussion?
And Mr. Chairman, if we can take the vote separately for those two.
Yes. So the first vote that we had the motion on was to move 911 back under police department and to delete the director's position. Those in favor?
That's
Oh,
not,
the agenda
that wasn't the
items.
motion.
It's
Mr.
an
Chairman,
agenda
the-
item.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The first motion was to create the new major position in the police department.
That's right. All right. Those in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? It's, I oppose, that's 4-1. Second motion was to delete the position, correct?
No, the second motion was to transfer E911 operations
Can I,
back to Clayton County Police Department.
Okay, what was the motion that you, or the inclusion of the director's position?
I haven't made one. You suggested I did, and I said thanks, but I'll just keep this like it is.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna move the police department or E911 over to police department with 2 director heads. Okay. Was there a second on that one?
I
Did we
just,
get that?
before we do, I just want clarity on what we're doing. I thought we were adding an emergency agenda item, but it sounds like we're voting on it
Now
at
we're
this time.
voting to put it on the agenda.
So we are
to-
voting.
to
So
add
then
it
the
on
statement,
agenda.
so the statement for me, I guess I didn't hear it in stating that we are going to add the agenda item.
Yeah, we just added,
Yeah, that's all we're
create a
doing.
major's position,
Okay.
but, and the second one is to
Transfer.
transfer the E911 back under the, police department.
It's an agenda item.
Right.
As an agenda item.
Now, we had a motion, and it's been second. Now, are there any questions about this? But I'm a little confused again, because we're saving money, but we're creating another major's position. That,
But it's police.
If you hold on for 90 seconds, I promise I'll make a third item.
like I said, I'm confused as to why we're doing this from the start, but are there any other questions or comments? Those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
It's 3-2, it passes.
I'd like to add an item for consideration to our agenda for the deletion of the Department Director of E911 position.
Second.
Probably moved in second. Any questions about this?
It's just an agenda item we're voting on, so we're gonna have to vote on it again.
To put on?
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
I got it. Okay, so for now, no questions until we get to there.
All right, those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
3-2, it passes.
Are there any further amendments? Hearing none, may we have a motion to adopt the agenda with the approved amendments?
So moved.
Is there a second? Probably moving second. Those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
Approval of the July 5th, 2017 regular business meeting minutes.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? I'll second it. Properly moving second. Those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
The board has 2 proclamations to present this evening. The first recognizes Tracy Fleming of Chick-fil-A for continued contributions to the Clayton County community, as presented by Commissioner Franklin Warner. Is Mr. Tracy Fleming here? Family, friends may come forward as well, as the commissioners join you for the presentation of the proclamation.
Oh, don't do it.
And the proclamation reads, Clayton County recognizes Mr. Tracy Fleming, owner and operator, Chick-fil-A, Lovejoy Station. Whereas, Tracy Fleming is a business owner in the District 3 area of Clayton County and is a dedicated and active community participant. In his role as a leader and businessman, Tracy's goal is to be a positive influence in the community. He is committed to providing remarkable dining experiences by delivering excellence in food, service, and cleanliness. And whereas, Mr. Fleming volunteers his service as active member of the local Kiwanis organization and serves on the Clayton County Chamber of Commerce. He has served on several advisory school boards throughout Clayton County, where he actively supports the schools and community. He sets the standard stating, "My work in Clayton County is not done. I want to see this county move forward." And whereas, Tracy Fleming sponsored a community Thanksgiving dinner 2016, providing food and service to families in need, thus enhancing their holiday season. Mr. Fleming is working adamantly to include Clayton County in the international business arena by facilitating one of the world's largest global leadership summit events here in Clayton County, scheduled in August of 2017. And whereas, Tracy Fleming is a visionary, as he recognizes the need to support and propel growth in Clayton County. He continually donates his services and resources to assist and reward the community at large, particularly parents and students. His efforts and actions have supported Stand Up Clayton, Stop the Violence movement, Clayton Excels community sessions, Clayton County Extravaganza, Easter event, and Clayton County's first A Taste of Clayton Arts, Music, and Food Festival. And whereas, Mr. Tracy Fleming, along with his wife of over 39 years, are the parents of 3 children and 13 grandchildren. It is their desire to bridge the gap of community, school, and business by providing community service, second to none by ensuring Chick-fil-A Lovejoy Station is your home away from home. Now, therefore, I, Felicia Franklin Warner, Commissioner, on behalf of the Clayton County Board of Commissioners, do hereby call on all citizens to join me in recognizing Mr. Tracy Fleming for his leadership and community activism. In witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of Clayton County, Georgia, to be affixed this 18th day of July in the year 2017. Felicia Franklin Warner, Commissioner.
Every year. You know, when you have so many business owners that have left, I will say, but we've got so many that have stayed and so many that have come, like Mr. Fleming, who continue to give to our community. So I wanted to honor you today. And we thank him for the Global Leadership Summit coming on August 10th and 11th. Right here in Clayton County, there will be a location here, a satellite location. So thank you so much.
And our last proclamation for this evening recognizes Zach Paul, a Generation Z trailblazer for the successful Jazz Festival. Will Mr. Paul please come forward, as well as his family and friends that are present with him today?
And the proclamation reads, Clayton County recognizes Zychaeus Rashad Paul. Whereas Zychaeus Rashad Paul is a young jazz pianist, singer, and music producer from Riverdale, Georgia. He is a remarkable piano talent, performing his first solo at the tender age of 10 years old in his local church's Sunbeam Choir. His talent was further enhanced under the guidance and leadership of his stepfather, Mr. Darren Jennings. And whereas, although Mr. Paul realized his calling to become a preacher, he continued to enhance his skills and pursue his music career, wherein at the age of 16, he auditioned and was accepted into the Mount Zion Magnet High School, which is now the renowned Martha Ellen Stillwell School of Arts, a nationally recognized institution of academic excellence. And whereas, Zychaeus Paul has been an asset to his school and community as a volunteer to assist fellow students, teachers, and others. He gives of himself and his talents freely by assisting in local events and venues throughout Clayton County. Mr. Paul organized and coordinated an outdoor community jazz event that brought in musical talent from the greater Atlanta area as well as on the local level. And whereas Mr. Zychaeus Rashad Paul's actions are commendable and has a positive impact on those around him, he is a leader and forward thinker in his field. Now, therefore, I, Felicia Franklin Warner, Commissioner, on behalf of the Clayton County Board of Commissioners, do hereby call on all citizens to join me in recognizing Mr. Zychaeus Rashad Paul for his achievements and community service. In witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of Clayton County, Georgia, to be affixed this 18th day of July in the year 2017. Felicia Franklin Warner, Commissioner.
You hear both the commissioners so excited because we get to hear the kids as that play and sing all the time. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, let me tell you why we had to do this week. We got 2 students to honor next time, but he's going to Puerto Rico. So he is leaving us, and he's got his band members here that are also leaving and going back to Puerto Rico as well. So these students have excelled so much. And I got one more thing to tell you about Zach. We were there at the event. He planned the whole thing, called me up, even called up one of our local vendors and said, can y'all help me? So we went there. We were like, okay, no problem. I look around and little John Roberts walked in. For those who don't know who he is, he's the drummer for Janet Jackson as well as for, who's the other one, Dietrich? Prince, Michael Jackson, some of everybody, Jill Scott. So to have this young man have this event in Clayton County, coordinated on his own, I think is just phenomenal. So thank you.
The board will now consider the request of Director of Central Services, Carol Rogers.
And while Ms. Rogers is coming, I'd like to recognize Councilman Alfred Dixon from City of Jonesboro. Thank you for being here, sir. Appreciate you coming. Take them all together, ma'am.
Okay, great. Good afternoon, good evening, Chairman, Vice Chairman, and Commissioners. On behalf of Central Services, I have 7 items to present. The first one is a request for second contract amendment at RFB 16-37, that is pharmaceutical supplies for Clayton County Fire and Emergency Services, an annual contract. The request is to amend the current contract with Boundtree Medical LLC located in Dublin, Ohio for specific items due to a manufacturer's price increase. Funding is available through the Fire and Emergency Services General Fund for medical supplies. Next item is request for contract amendment, first contract amendment for RFP 16-96, that is for the constant promotional Promotion Services for Clayton County, Georgia, annual contract. The request is to amend the current contract with Freestyle Productions LLC, located in Atlanta, Georgia, to revise the compensation and invoicing section of the agreement to compensate the promoter a 50% deposit within 2 weeks prior to each event, and the remaining balance a week after each event has been completed. Funding is available through the general funds account. Next item is recommendation for award of RFP 16-99, which is alcohol and drug treatment services for the Clayton County Adult Felony Drug Court, annual contract. The recommendation is for award to the most responsive and responsible proponent meeting the specifications. That is Clayton Center Community Service Board, located in Jonesboro, Georgia, in the amount of $15,600 per month, and that's a total of $187,200 per year. Funding is available through the Department of Justice Assistance Grant and the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Service Administration Grant. Next item is recommendation of award for RFB 17-02, which is elevator maintenance and repair services for Clayton County, Georgia, annual contract. The recommendation for award is to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, meeting the specifications. That's Moray Elevator Company of Florida, Inc., located in Marianna, Florida. Funding is available through the Building Maintenance General Fund account. Next item is for recommendation for governmental and affiliated entity purchase. This is for RFQ 17-139, which is for Clayton County Courts Administration Digital Surveillance System. This is recommendation the purchase of hardware, software, cabling, configuration, and installation services to adapt to Solve Inc. They're located on the GSA contract, which is the General Service Administration contract. The cost is $148,866.93. Funding is available through the State Court Technology Fund. Next item is recommendation for purchase off of a co-op, and that is number co-op 17-141 for Pierce Ascendant Aerial, utilizing the NPP Government Cooperative Contract. The recommendation is to purchase from 10-8 Fire, Inc., located in Forsyth, Georgia, in the total amount of $907,192. Funding is available through the general fund account. And the last item is a recommendation for governmental and entity purchase, and this is for 17-142. This is for two 2017 Ford ambulances. We're utilizing the Florida Sheriff Association state contract, and the total amount is from 10-8 Fire, Inc., located in Forsyth, Georgia, and the total amount of purchase is $378,430, and funding is available through the general fund account.
Okay, we're going to take a motion on all of the items except for number 2. We're going to take that one separately. Is there a motion? I'll make the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Probably moved and seconded. Questions on any of the items?
Yes. Number 3, will you give us that total again?
Yes, the total is $15,600 per month.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I thought I heard another figure.
Hearing none, those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Is there a motion on item number 2, recommendation for first contract amendment, RFP 16-96? I'll make the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Probably moving second. Any questions? Hearing none. All those in favor, aye. Aye.
Abstain.
Opposed? None. One abstention. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Is that abstention for cause? Is that
Yes, for
abstention
cause.
for cause? Okay. The board will now consider the request of Human Resources Director Pamela Ambles.
Good evening.
Good evening, Chairman, Vice Chair, and Commissioners. Human Resources, we have one item to present for your consideration. Human Resources is requesting approval for the renewal of our annual contract with Georgia Administrative Services. Georgia Administrative Services is our third-party administrator of our workers' compensation program. The scope of the work of the contract includes claim examination and payment, investigation of claims, coordination of care for our injured workers, as well as pharmacy management. We have a long relationship with GAS. The initial contract was signed in December of 1999, and it has been renewed every year thereafter. Luckily and thankfully, there is no increase in our renewal rate, and the current rate that we have is guaranteed until 2020. There is no additional budgetary impact. Funding for this service is included in the FY18 budget. The renewal rate is $91,520 annually. This agreement does provide us with a dedicated claims adjuster. She works only on Clayton County claims. Her name is Ms. Linda Cognan, and we have gotten great feedback from our employees in regards to our workers' comp administration. Thank you.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any questions? Hearing none, those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
Thank you.
County Attorney Jack Hancock.
Please take them together, Mr. Hancock.
Mr. Chairman, if I could ask the board, Ms. Straughter has requested that we remove item 15. She indicates that there is not an agreement yet. There's still a term that they're trying to discuss with the American Kellogg grant on the Meals on Wheels.
Are we also removing 21 then?
Let's see what 21 is.
That's the funding for that 623 that's referenced in the documents on 15.
She says no.
What is a Kellogg grant?
You got $14,000 grant, and the 623 is.
It's different?
Well, 15, the attached documentation of 14 references 21, so that's why I asked.
Okay. I'll have to defer to the department head, Mr. Commissioner.
Come on up, Ms. Straughter.
Okay.
I'm not against it, I'm just wondering if there's a thing.
What I'm told is that she attached, the wrong item was attached, and that's the reason.
Okay,
So
okay.
So what are we doing?
we're asking to remove 15, 21 will remain.
Okay, so we'll address that issue first, and I'll make the motion to remove items 15.
Second.
Those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Please take the remaining together.
All right, sir. I have three resolutions, Mr. Chairman. Resolution 2017-53 is a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of Clayton County, Georgia, to approve the Clayton County Community Development Department's procedures governing the operation of collection kiosks in unincorporated Clayton County, to authorize the chairman to perform all acts necessary to accomplish the intent of the resolution, to provide an effective date of the resolution, and for other purposes. Resolution 2017-54 is a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of Clayton County, Georgia, to support the Back to School Bash hosted by Commissioner Gail Ambrick in partnership with the Clayton County Parks and Recreation Department, Clayton County Fire and Emergency Services, and the Clayton County Police Department, to authorize the county and its departments to perform all acts necessary to accomplish the intent of this resolution, to authorize the chairman to perform all acts necessary to accomplish the intent of the resolution, to perform an effective date of the resolution, and for other purposes. Resolution 2017-55 is a resolution to amend Resolution 2015-59, establishing the Clayton County Youth Commission, to authorize the chairman to perform all acts necessary to accomplish the intent of the resolution, to authorize the chief financial officer to amend the budget where necessary to reflect an appropriate revenue source and expense, to provide an effective date of this resolution, and for other purposes. An ordinance 2017-56 is an ordinance to amend the official zoning map for Clayton County, Georgia, to provide an effective date of this ordinance, to authorize the chairman of the Board of Commissioners to execute the official map, to provide for repeal of conflicting ordinances, to provide for codification, and for other purposes. For clarification, let me explain to you the reason that is there. Because we're now able to produce the zoning map on a parcel-by-parcel basis, we decided to be a good idea to create what we can be sure is an official map by adding the signature. The original ordinance did not have that in it, and that's the only difference. The map has not changed from what you approved in May. This just adds the authority to sign it, which I understand it's already been signed. So that's all that does. Everything else would be exactly identical to what you approved in May. Item 14 is a memorandum of understanding that the Fire and Emergency Services Department is requesting that the board approve to enter into an agreement between the Board of Regents of the University System of Georgia on behalf of the University System of Georgia and Clayton County Fire and Emergency Services. The purpose of the agreement is to provide students from the University of Georgia and the College of Public Health high-quality learning experiences. Further, to authorize the chairman to execute the agreement and otherwise perform all acts necessary to accomplish the intent of the agreement, to authorize the chief financial officer to amend the budget where necessary to reflect the appropriate revenue source and expense, all as may be required under the terms of the agreement. Item 16 is a request from the Clayton County Department of Transportation and Development that the Board of Commissioners approve an intergovernmental agreement with the Clayton County Board of Education for the design and construction of improvements necessary for the Steel Road at Stagecoach Road Board of Education driveway improvement project. The Board of Commissioners approved the budget for this project on June 20th, 2017. This would approve the intergovernmental agreement with the Board of Education and would authorize the chairman to execute the agreement and otherwise perform all acts necessary to accomplish the intent of the request. Authorize the chief financial officer to amend the budget where necessary to reflect an appropriate revenue source and expense, all as may be required under the terms of the agreement. Item 17 is a request from Clayton County Community Development Department HUD Program Division authorizing the submission of the 2017 Annual Action Plan to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development on August the 16th of 2017. Prior to the submission, the county must complete its public notification and participation process, which concludes with an approval of the plan by the Board of Commissioners. Further, it authorizes the chairman to execute the original agreement, the initial agreement, otherwise perform all acts necessary to accomplish the intent of the agreement, to authorize the chief financial officer to amend the budget where necessary to reflect an appropriate revenue source and expense, all as may be required under the terms of the agreement. Item 18 is the Water Authority request that the Board of Commissioners, convey a temporary construction easement to replace and maintain the sanitary sewer pipe on the property identified by tax map parcel number 13206C AO52, located on Haverhill Lane in Jonesboro, Georgia. Authorize the chairman to execute the easement agreement and otherwise to perform all acts necessary to accomplish the intent of the agreement. Item 19 is a similar request from the Water Authority that the Board of Commissioners convey a permanent easement and temporary construction easement to replace and maintain the sanitary sewer pipe on the property identified by tax map parcel 13180C CO21, located at Montego Circle in Riverdale, Georgia, Clayton County. Further, to authorize the chairman to execute the easement and to perform all acts necessary to accomplish the intent of the agreement. The county is the owner of the two parcels identified in requests 18 and 19, as well as the parcel identified in request number 20, which also comes from the Water Authority and requests that the county convey a permanent easement and a temporary construction easement to replace and maintain the sanitary sewer pipe on the property identified by tax map parcel ID number 13180A-A002. It's located at Valley Hill Road in Riverdale, Clayton County, Georgia, and also to authorize the chairman to execute that agreement and to perform all acts necessary to accomplish the intent of the agreement. Item 21 is a request from Clayton County Senior Services that the Board of Commissioners accept a $623,392 grant from the Atlanta Regional Commission for fiscal year 2018 with matching funds of $38,025.66 being required. The grant's effective July 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2018, and renewable for 1 year contingent upon the availability of funding. Further, the request is to authorize the chairman to execute the agreement and otherwise perform all acts necessary to accomplish the intent of the agreement, to authorize the chief financial officer to amend the budget where necessary to reflect an appropriate revenue source and expense, all as may be required under the terms of the agreement. And item 22 from the Clayton County Administration is a request that the Board of Commissioners approve a memorandum of understanding with Freeman Mathis and Gary LLP effective as of July 1st, 2017. Where the firm will handle the duties previously performed by the lawyers and staff in the legal department, plus handle all the investigation and responses to all annual item notices received by the county and the investigation and responses to all EEOC claims filed against the county for an annual flat fee of $600,000. The amount budgeted by the county for for the last fiscal year for the legal department alone was $660,000.
All right, is there a motion?
Then we have the other items that we.
Those items that was added.
Items that we added.
Just take those separately at this point. so we
Yes,
won't
we'll
be
take them
discussing it for
separately
forever.
anyway.
Which one, I'm sorry?
The last two that was added by Commissioner.
Yes, sir, I was planning on taking them separately.
thank you.
When you said all of them, I
idea.
didn't think you meant those two.
That's a good idea.
All right, is there a
Three.
motion?
3.
Is it three? That's right,
So
I'm
moved.
sorry.
Is there a second?
Second, Chair.
Any questions on any of the items?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. I have a couple questions. On item number 14, it's just a quick question.
Sure.
Do we have something like that in place with Clayton State already, or do they have programs that we looked at that? And I apologize for asking.
Okay.
I
I
just,
believe, Mr. Chief, you come to speak to this if you would, but I believe that there is an agreement in place with Clayton State.
there is, okay.
But you can,
Yes, we do have one currently, clinical agreement with Clayton State, as well as the schools, as well as Southern Regional, Southern Crescent, ATC, and now the University of Georgia.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And then one other question I have, if it's okay, Chair. On item number 18, I understand that the county owns those easement lots, but I think it's just more of a general statement or question. Is there a way that the county can look at going in and having defined easements throughout the entire county? This is one of the few counties that I've seen that does not. And it's just interesting. It's going to help us also with our MARTA relationships and the bus stops. In most counties, well, you know, I tend to lean towards my experience, but in other counties, they have defined easement. It is clearly defined. You know the area where your home is and the area that belongs to the county.
okay, I understand now what you're asking. And that happens here as well in any developed property. In other words, when a property gets developed through the zoning process and through the permitting process, of course, we define the road right-of-way by what we have acquired, but if in a subdivision for development, for example, there are setback requirements, and if there are drainage easements, those are already shown on the plats. So that occurs in property that has been developed already. What we're talking about here are situations in which the county in some manner, and I don't know how these were acquired, but the county acquired title to these lots somehow. And there already existed, and it may well have, and probably did, be my best guess, exist prior to the zoning map requirements. And so the Water Authority has a line there already, a sewer line that is in existence, but they don't have an easement. And so what they're asking us to do in this instance, they don't have a written document as an easement, is just to grant them one to allow them to do repairs.
So I guess for me, then it gives me a little bit more of a narrowed question.
Sure.
How can we just put it on our radar that we discuss with the Water Authority in particular, that we have those defined easements? Because I actually, and I understand what you're saying, but I actually had a meeting with the Water Authority when I first came on, and I was just blown away that we don't have defined easements throughout the county. And to be quite honest, even in neighborhoods, it's they've been told that the area is owned by the homeowner, and so therefore they've been responsible for repairs up until the portion that begins exactly where Clayton County Water owns it. So that's just something to put on your radar screen. So it's not something I pulled out of the air. It came from a meeting actually with Michael. I apologize, with the CEO of the Water Authority. And so it was just, I just couldn't fathom that we don't have that defined with our utilities here in the county.
Yes, ma'am.
And if
I'll
I could
make
just
sure.
say, why is that important? Because in the case of a serious natural disaster, it's one thing to come and do something piecemeal here or there. But when we have, if God forbid something really were to happen, we'd kind of be in trouble. And it would also help us shore up the relationship with the MARTA bus stops.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions?
Yes, it's not necessarily a question. Mr. Ejike, if you would, on the kiosk, I know we all talk about trash, cleaning the county, and just different initiatives and so forth. Would you explain a little bit, just so the public would know what this item is concerning the kiosks that are located throughout the county?
Yes, ma'am, I can. Good evening, Commissioners and Chairman. The kiosk idea came as a result of complaints and general observation that the citizens were sending, and also Commissioner Gregory. So we started looking at the kiosk. They were intended to collect items for donation, like shoes, things of that nature.
Can you repeat that again? I didn't understand it one more time.
Items for donation, like shoes, clothes, and things of that nature. Those kiosks. What happened was that most of them turned into dumping sites. Folks come and dump their old furniture. It was getting to really become aesthetically unpleasing. And most of these kiosks are located near shopping centers. So when we started working with Commissioner Gregory to look into that, then we kind of devised a means, which is in the resolution, to contact the kiosk owners and also the property owners. So now the kiosk owners will have a business license in the county, and also hopefully will have the ability to cite the property owners when this continues. So it's still work in progress, but this resolution kind of brings it to your attention, and so that what we're doing, so that when you get phone calls.
Okay, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you. And my second question, Mr. Chair, Mr. Petarco, just for clarification, because Dr. Adamson asked me about this the other day, the MOU with Steel Road, the Steel Road property, we just voted right or decided to give the school, the Board of Education, that property, and they're gonna be responsible for the paying to build that road, right?
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
what the MOU or what the agreement indicates
yeah.
is that there's a shared cost, and make sure I'm right here, but it's being done in connection with the road improvement, but because of the ability to save in expenses and to expedite the process, the two groups have decided to do it together, and they're gonna share the cost in relation to the property that they will end up with. So the school board will ultimately pay for the cost of planning, designing, and building what will then become their driveway into that school.
Thank you.
Did I get that right? Okay.
That's nice. He spoke for you.
Any other questions, statements, comments? Hearing none, those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, it's unanimous.
3 items that were added to the agenda. Mr. Chairman, the first one was the creation of a position of major in new position of major in the police department. Mr. COO, I think, has got some information that he can share with you with regard to that, as to what the current majors are would contemplate. The second was the transfer of E911 to the police department, and the third was to abolish the position of director of E911.
Chairman, Board, a couple of things. Let me first of all clarify. Earlier, you asked the question, Chairman, with regard to the operations manager. That position is filled. The vacancies that presently are housed in the E911 department would be, of course, the 911 director, the dispatcher 1 and 2. There's 2 senior dispatchers, as well as 1 dispatcher supervisor, are the positions that are vacant presently in the department. With regard to costs, Commissioner Hambrick and Commissioner Edmondson was speaking to potentially the savings. The salary associated with then 911 director at the time, Mr. Porter, was $128,987. If we were even to revert back to a 39.3, which would be the starting grade for a 911 director, that salary would be $104,432. The beginning salary for a major, which is kind of in line with traditionally that has been the lead position in the 911 department under PD, that salary would begin at $70,176. So you're looking at somewhere between $34,000 savings as it pertains to a major position, vacating that position versus the 911 director's position. So just want to provide you all the salaries associated with those changes.
All right, is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions, statements,
Yes.
comments?
Yes, sir. I have a question because I was not a part of the board when it was decided to move 911 from move the 911 from the police department to make it a separate department. So the first question is, was the cost considered at that particular time? Because
Yes.
I'm hearing about the savings, so if we moved it, and I went back and researched, and the reasoning behind moving it previously was because we took on additional cities to provide them E911 services. So if the rationale at that particular time was to make it a separate department based upon that, then what has changed?
Well, it was based upon taking on additional cities, and we were also moving to a trunking system, interoperability, which was a SPLOS project. And what was the amount of that project? 23 million or something like that. So there was a lot involved, and in my opinion and my vote went towards the efficiency of apartment being a standalone department, especially after having ran that department while I was the chief and talking to the personnel that was at the department. They also was supportive of having, once again, because it used to be a standalone department once before.
It was?
Yes.
Okay, and how long ago was it a standalone department? Does anybody know?
It-
And what
it
period
went
of
under
time?
the police department, and I believe it was '06.
Okay, so '06, it went under PD. When did it come from under PD?
So what?
When did it come from under PD? What year did we make it a standalone department?
2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago.
2 or 3 years ago. Okay, so my question to the board is, if the rationale at that time was for efficiency, because at least 2 of the members are still on the board. Well, actually 4, sorry, y'all. But 4 are still on the board. So if it was based upon efficiency or effectiveness plus the SPLOS project, the first thing is the SPLOS project complete for that department?
Trunking.
It's complete. Okay. The second thing is, does the savings trump the fact that you still brought in additional cities in this process? Because now you're going to have the city's police department coordinating with a major of our police department. And is that reason enough for our savings not to bounce this back? Because what I'm saying is, I'm not sure if the board has a clear idea of what they think this 911 department should be or how it should operate, because it seems to be vacillating, going back and forth. And I'm not sure if a cost savings is sufficient enough to be able to keep moving these employees from under PD, away from PD. And I will have to say that does cause a little bit of, more so than anxiety. I would say people would want to know their board is making sound decisions.
Well, employees want
And I'm not
stability.
sure that they feel that we're giving them stability, as you mentioned.
Yes, ma'am. So to try to answer your question, Commissioner, staff will manage 911, whatever the decision of the board is as it relates to the policy regarding whether it's a standalone department under PD or whatever the issues may be. I think as it pertains to cost and the efficiency, we're only really talking about a position. The staff will be managed by whoever's there, whether it's a 911 director or major. So the major part of the staff is not being displaced. What we're talking about is ultimately a position managing the 911 department. And more importantly, if it was moved back to PD, then you're talking about the chief of police certainly having the ultimate responsibility of managing the major's position. But in fact, what we're looking at is moving that one position. In my estimation, the staff that will be impacted the most will not be impacted by who's the leader of that department. Now, the chairman said he had some discussions with the staff with regard to their feelings. We did not query the staff with regard to their feelings with regard to that. So I don't know the issue there. But the reality of it is that whatever the pleasure of this board is with regard to the move, we're going to govern ourselves accordingly and make sure that happens.
And let me say this, because I disagree with what you said about whoever's going to be managing. That's in and of itself a management position. It's a different culture that you're dealing with. 911 is a different culture than the police department itself. The mentality of dispatchers and police officers are also different. They work together, but the culture itself is different. But let me just say this, though.
Chairman, let me say this, to that point, I think it still is incumbent upon the leadership, meaning the CO's office, the DCO, to ensure that if there seems to be a displacement because of the culture, then we need to ensure that the employees are not impacted by that. So if in fact it moves or it stays, whatever the case may be, we need to hold that person that's ultimately responsible for that space to ensure that those employees are not displaced in any form of
That
fashion.
goes without saying.
Yes, sir.
That's your job, and that's what you're supposed to do.
Let me
and I
ask you this
appreciate
before you
saying
get to that.
Yes.
Who's running the 911 now? Who's in charge?
So the ultimate responsibility right now, the DCOO is responsible for the day-to-day operations, but we've been very fortunate enough to have the chief of staff as well as one of our operations folk from IT, that's Richard LaValle, as well as Captain Tinian Daniels, to kind of serve as conduit co-authors of that
police?
space in PD
Police and
to
IT.
kind of help with that space. So those kind of been the three primary individuals that's helping run the department.
But the person giving orders in the department, as when I went to visit them, was your deputy chief at that time, correct? Making changes.
Ultimately, the responsibility lies with the DCOO, yes, ma'am.
Okay. I just wanted to say this. When people work for government, as I stated before, we're not able to pay as much as other jobs can pay. And the one thing we want to do is let folks know that we're trying to make the best decisions for them, and we want to keep stability in mind. We want to make sure that we are being good stewards of the taxpayers' dollars. But at the same token, my concern is if, again, the reasoning for making it a separate department at the time it was made a separate department was because of taking on additional cities. I'm not sure if the cost savings is going to trump that for me. That's my concern. And the other thing, to be quite honest with you, they've been without a director since about January when I first came in, and they've been through a lot. So, and I know in PD, they get promoted quite a bit. Majors become, they move on up quickly. So PD, I turn around, and this is the truth. My aides can tell you, 1 minute I'm calling PD, and this person's no longer over that department or that department, but that's okay. I understand that's the culture because people retire. So for that reason, I feel that it would be best served for us to leave it as a separate department, and that's just my personal opinion based upon my research.
And lastly, I'll say this, if the spirit of this move is to save money, then I wish this board, or the majority of the board, would have had that same sentiment when we was approving $500,000 concession stands and giving $3,000 a month contracts to consultants.
Mr. Chairman, that is not a concession stand. That is a
about-
multi-purpose building, and it's for a Flat Shows Park that has not seen increases in anything for years, has always been overlooked. And it's time that the northern part of the county get something equivalent or just as good or better than the other part of the county.
Thank you, Commissioner. My comment stands that I wish we would have put more thought into this. And, the catch-all is always saving money. So if we're gonna save money, let's save money. All right. Those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay. 3-2, it passes.
Chairman, do need an executive session, short one on litigation, real estate, and personnel, sir.
Real estate person. All right. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
I'm sorry,
hold
Mr.
on.
Chairman.
We have some
Oh, I'm
appointments.
sorry. I'm ahead of myself.
You were just done for today.
The last four
Oh,
items.
You're the chairman now. You're not the
Concession
chief.
stand.
The last
Finish
four
the
items on the agenda are board appointments. The first appointment is to the Airport South CID, and this is to fill the term of Tanner Hinklin. This is a continuous term, and this is a full board appointment. Are there any nominations?
Yes, I would like to nominate Emily Cannon.
Is there a second?
Second?
Those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
Item number 24 is an appointment to the Library Board to fill the expired term of Pamela Lake. This term is 3 years, expiring on June 30th, 2020. This is a full board appointment. Are there any nominations?
I'd like to
Yes,
nominate
I would like to
Deetra.
nominate Miss
I had
Brenda
the floor.
Stiggers.
Hold on, I had the floor, ma'am. Deetra Poindexter. Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
3-2, it fails. Is there another nomination?
Yes, I would like to nominate Miss Brenda Stiggers.
Is there a second?
I'll second that for Ms. Stiggers.
All right, those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
The next appointment is to the Parks and,
Madam Clerk, we're asking to hold the appointment for Mr. Lance Clark. Parks and Recreation Director did find out that that candidate is not a local, is not a resident, so we're asking to hold that, please.
Vote for those last time.
But there is one more.
okay.
Yes.
Item number 26 is an appointment to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board to fill the term of Amanda Ray Williams. This term expires June 30th, 2021. And notated below is the recommendation from the Parks and Recreation Department.
Mr. Chair, I offer a motion that we accept the recommendation of the Parks and Rec Director for Dr. Elliot McGlory to fill this
Second.
position.
Second?
Those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, this does conclude this evening's agenda. There was a request to go into executive session on real estate, personnel, and litigation.
My area too. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor, aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. Y'all have a good night. All right, is there a motion to reconvene?
So moved.
Is there a second? Those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Mr. Hancock.
Mr. Chairman, three matters that you had previously authorized us to attempt to negotiate a settlement in. We've been successful in doing that. They're all three automobile accidents. The first one involves Mr. Kenneth Pulley, P-U-L-L-E-Y, who was involved in a collision on August the...
Hold on a second, Mr. Hancock.
I'm sorry, Kennedy Pulley, I'm sorry. I read his writing wrong, pardon me. Kennedy Pulley, involved in an automobile collision on August the 27th of 2016 at the intersection of McDonough Road and James Madison Drive with a county vehicle. Mr. Pulley had, as a result of that, $14,237 in medical expenses. We were able to settle the case for a total payment of $25,000 to him. And we have a signed settlement agreement which we'll provide to the clerk to make a part of the record. The second one is a collision that occurred on March the 15th of 2016 between a county vehicle and Ms. Maya Cody, C-O-D-Y, happened at the intersection of Moreland Avenue and Euclid Avenue. Again, Ms. Cody had $98,015 of meds at the time of the settlement. She had significant back herniations that she's going to have treatment for. We were able to settle her claim for $30,000, and we have that settlement agreement. And arising out of the same collision, Mr. Lamont Torres was injured, and he had medical expenses of $5,507. We were able to settle that claim for $8,000. All of those are equal to or less than the amount that you authorized for each one of them. And we'd ask for you to accept those settlement agreements and authorize they be placed upon the record.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Any questions? Hearing none, those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
That's all I have. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second it. Those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Good night.
30.